It is the home to the turn of death. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome here as we continue on the chase towards the chase for the Season 7 Hershey's Cup Series Championship. Race number 11 ready to take place here. Endurance racing time at Thornton International Raceway. This is always a wild card race when we come here because of the fact that really anybody has a chance of winning, and it's maybe one of the most difficult courses because every single portion of this track in some way can hurt you, especially the final corner. It's a very hard sweeping right-hander, and off the left side of that right-hander is a 60-foot drop down into a quarry. We deem it the turn of death, and several drivers during the span of this channel have visited that turn of death, and they tell me it's nothing like you've ever experienced before. Will we see someone fall off the turn of death here today? Only time will tell. J Arndt lines up on the pole position. He comes into this race the only two-time winner this season. He won earlier on this year at Dover, and then he, of course, won last week at, Richmond. So he now has basically locked himself up a spot in this season's playoffs as the only multi-time winner. You can actually look down the bottom right of your screen and see with him with the 2 wins, the drivers with 1 win, and the drivers that currently at this point would have the final few spots via the point standings, via the points overall. But J Arndt would certainly love to have a 3 wins after his name heading into next week. So we'll see if maybe with good starting track position what he'll be able to do here today. He'll start alongside of Chris Dodd in the 8. Now Chris had a pretty decent run last week at Richmond as well. Still looking for that victory though as he is mired 32nd in the points. He's also got good starting track position as he's making his final start here at Thornton International Raceway. Now, normally, we wait until the command to fire up the engines, and then we give you your top 10, the point standings overall and all that, but there's a little bit of an issue with Thornton. A lot of people that have run Thornton will tell you that not all the time when you're recording live are you able to go from the green flag to the checkered flag without some problem. My problem is, most oftentimes than not, when I go to record live at Thornton, the game will crash right in the middle of it, and then I have to start all over again. So the method I always use when coming to a track like this, when I know there's that kind of an issue that could possibly happen, is I actually run the race and record the replay. So with that being said, we will not hear a command to fire up the engines. Also, with this racetrack, you basically, to be able to make sure all of these drivers are going to be able to reach the green flag, you have to make sure you don't put it on the full pace lap. These drivers are starting maybe about a quarter of a mile before the start-finish line sitting here on the grid. So we would not have enough time when these cars get rolling off to be able to present you the top 10 in points before we go to green. So we're going to give them to you right now before the cars roll off. So J Baskinger, who had the runner-up finish last week to his teammate J Arndt, he is still the points leader, and his runner-up finish helped him to increase his points lead by 31 points over a tie for second between J Srigley and rookie Scott Roush. Kyle Keith comes into this race 4th in the point standings. 5th in points is K Mathews. Then it's Seth Cole 6th. J Arndt with his 2 wins up in 7th. J Cittadino 8th. J McIntire 9th. Jessica Shelton in 10th. Right now, out of our top 10, the point standings, 6 of those drivers have been to victory lane. And then for the other former winners this season, where are they in points? Are they still in the top 30 in the points? The answer is yes, as you could clearly see by their names on the playoffs grid. Dylan Young is 11th in the points, Anthony McCrury 13th, and Tim Walsh right now is 26th. Going to be a lot of eyes in the 15 car today because he's got to remain in the top 30 in points. He needs a good run here today to keep himself away from the 30th position in the point standings. If he falls out of that, that win in the Daytona 500 isn't going to mean anything for the postseason. But now it's time to get these cars rolling off here, and they will be going to green very, very soon. This is an endurance race, so there are no cautions. Any wrecks that happen, we will try to document for you via our NNSCRA split cam, but if we don't get to it, then we apologize. There you see the turn of death right there, off on the right side of your screen. And that's what these drivers are going to try to avoid as they come down the front straightaway, waiting on the flagman. And come on, flagman, let's go. There we go, green flag's in the air. We're underway at Thornton, let's roll. And already they're looking 3 wide there. Daniel Gilbert up, and the field got run over by a train. Got to do a lot of jostling of camera angles here. Some camera angles are good, some camera angles are not. J Arndt with the lead. Joshua Osborne right there in second. He's been rookie of the race the last 2 times out. Ooh, right there, he got wide though. And here comes J McCloud with a good run, the 51. Well, I thought he had a good run. All of a sudden, he backed out of it. K Shearer right behind him. K Dollerton there. Boy, this is not a good place to be able to get camera angles, that's for sure. Pretty wide back here. McCloud, Dollerton, as well as Dallas McIntosh. K Shearer in the mix as well. This is a very dangerous corner right here. A lot of drivers with different braking zones will run each other over. A couple of cars got off track, but actually Joshua Osborne swung the corner very wide, and that's going to allow him to get the race lead away from J Arndt. Let's not forget that Joshua Osborne is a former Hershey's Cup Series winner back in Season 2. I think it was Season 2, either Season 2 or Season 3, at the road course of Yas Marina Circuit, so maybe not a surprise to see him running well here. Looking back through the field, I don't think we've encountered any problems yet, which is actually quite surprising, especially in the early stages when everybody's bunched up. It's when you have a lot of your wrecks, but up to this point, I don't think anybody has wrecked. Look at this, nose to tail, drafting down this long highway straightaway. Osborne, McIntosh, K Dodd trying to gap themselves back to 4th place J Arndt. All 3 of these drivers winless this year. Osborne, we mentioned, looking for his first win in multiple seasons. K Dodd, same could be said for him. And Dallas McIntosh hasn't won since last year's Great American Race. As there's a view of the quarry from this side of the course. McIntosh now with the lead. Osborne under fire from K Dodd for second. Here comes K Mathews in the 09. He's now up inside the top 10. Our winner from the Coke 600 at Charlotte. K Mathews 5th in the points coming into this race. Now Thornton, I'm going to look back real quickly and see here as McIntosh has gapped himself a little bit back to 2nd place. Joshua Osborne, look at K Mathews there trying to get to the inside of J Arndt, but he needs some drafting help now. If I'm not mistaken, I think Thornton made its debut on the schedule back in Season 3, but I'm just double checking my facts here. Because I know that the road course, the endurance race road course that we normally ran back at the beginning of the season was the aforementioned Yas Marina Circuit. So looking to see when the first year was that we actually ran at Thornton, and it looks like it might have been Season 4. Yes, it was, Season 4. Points leader coming into this race, J Baskinger was the inaugural winner. And then we didn't go to Thornton in Season 5. Instead, oh, yes we did. Yes, we did. I'm sorry. Our winner then was Dallas McIntosh, who's leading right now. And the defending winner of this race, if I'm not mistaken, is Charles Sanford. Yes, it was. Now we're going to switch to our TV1 camera. Oh, we got trouble in the back there. I saw someone spin. That looked like Sean Gallighan. We're going to go to TV1 camera. Now the reason we're doing this is because we're going to hard cam it here at the turn of death and see if anyone is going to fall victim to that 60-foot drop. So as McIntosh comes off the corner, we're going to freeze it. Ooh, K Dodd was close. J McCloud in the 51. He's going to fall off. Ooh, K Batson was close. Gallighan, and Gallighan is off as well. So McCloud and Gallighan are the first 2 to succumb to the turn of death here in this race. And we are now on lap number 2. There's Gallighan at the bottom of the quarry. Shane Lake is caught in the outside of the track. Scott Roush has got damage. I saw Fitzwater with damage as well as we focus back to Dallas McIntosh in the 14. Still the leader. Osborne 2nd, Mathews 3rd, Dodd in 4th, and 5th right now is the pole sitter J Arndt. K Dollerton in 6th, Cody Llamas 7th. 8th is Daniel Guilbert, in a battle here for 9th. Kyle Keith trying to get by K Shearer, and Daniel Voyles in the mix trying to see which lane's going to open up. Look back there, and I see a couple of former winners as well just outside of the top 10. Dylan Young's 2, our winner from Springfield. Jake Baskinger, the points leader, and our Kentucky winner, 3 wide here. That was for 9th. Kyle Keith lost the spot, though, as now the battle for 9th is between Daniel Voyles and K Shearer. There is Jake Baskinger, former winner at this racetrack back in Season 4. Now, the only former winner that's not really up here at the front of the field, with McIntosh leading and Baskinger in like 11th, 12th, 13th, and that is the defending winner of this race, and the only driver out of Retro Racing Enterprises that hasn't won yet this season, and that is Charles Sanford. There he is. Last time by was scored in 27th. And we mentioned that Tim Walsh needs a good run. Last time by, he crossed in 22nd place, so he's kind of mid-pack. See if he's going to be able to get up there at all. Back up towards the front of the field here, see if anything's developing in terms of a battle for position. And we actually did have a change for second. Kyle Mathews getting around Joshua Osborne. Kyle trying to get Retro Racing Enterprises back-to-back wins here in 2 seasons. Chris Dollerton. Oh, trouble in the back there. That's Kyle Keith around in front of the field. And it's on the highway section here, so something tells me he might have gotten off on the shoulder. And that's going to split the field up even more. But going back here to Dollerton and Chris Dodd, 2 drivers that are currently struggling in the points. Couple of teammates. Chris Dodd, we mentioned, 32nd in points, and Dollerton 39th. Both of them with an opportunity here to maybe draft together on these long highway straightaways. And now it turns into a 5-man fight for the second position, as J Arndt's going to join this. And it looks like Daniel Voyles might also get into this group. But this is not the battle for the lead. The battle for the lead is rather tame because there's nobody there with the exception of Dallas McIntosh. Last time by, he had about 0.8 of a second between himself and Joshua Osborne, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's increased, because visibly it looks like the gap's increased back to 0.9, which kind of surprises me because you've got these longer straightaway areas, and if you get yourself lined up, you're able to produce a lot of speed, like a drafting at a restricted plate track. And you'd think they'd be making up some ground on the single car of McIntosh that way, but that's apparently not the case. About to complete the second lap here, though, is Dallas McIntosh, so we're going to go to our TV1 camera and get ready to go on to the hard cam. Already, Sean Gallighan and J McCloud have fallen victim to the turn of death. Will we have another victim here on this lap? Emmanuel Hartnett's on pit road, and his day appears to be over. Ooh, Chris Dodd was close. Yikes. Levi McIntyre, Dylan Young, tempting fate. For the most part, drivers try and get themselves single file before they get to this corner, so that way they can all make it without having to deal with getting close to the turn of death. It looks like they're all going to get through it. Jordan Anderson's been involved in something, though. He's coming to pit road. Jordan Lopez as well has got damage. Looks like there might be some damage on Tim Walsh, but he stays out. There's Sanford and J Cittadino. Their cars are a bit scuffed up, and Benjamin Miles in the 25 is coming to the pit lane. So we'll move back up here to the front once again. And I mentioned that it looked like Dallas McIntosh had increased his gap back to second place. That is indeed the case. He was 0.8 of a second ahead of Joshua Osborne when they took and completed lap 1. After the completion of lap 2, 2.4 seconds basically back to the new second place driver, Kyle Mathews. So either they were battling a lot for second place, or else they're just not producing a whole lot of speed when they're all running together. Daniel Voyles fights his way up into the top 5, though. He's gotten around Chris Dollerton, Chris Dodd, and now working on J Arndt. That would be for 4th. Cody Llamas with a solid outing. He's currently in the 8th position. So a well-needed run for him. Good run, at least for a few of the CJ Racing cars. We have Chris Dodd, Chris Dollerton up there, and also our All-Star race winner, K Shearer. car that's missing from all of this is the 15 of Tim Walch, who we saw had some damage. And you'll notice most of these other drivers here have damage as well on the right side of their machines. I think that damage comes from the corners just before that last corner with the turn of death. There's a steel guardrail that a number of drivers, they try and cut the corner and they go down and scrape that steel guardrail. And I think that's where you're seeing this right side damage for most of these cars, where that's come from. And Voyles has got a little tire scuff there, so he's made contact with another car, not a guardrail. Now trying to take second place from K Mathews. Meanwhile, J Arndt, I believe that is, trying to get fourth place away from Joshua Osborne. Not going to be able to do it just yet. This has been a runaway right now. I mean, this would have been a great battle here if this was for the lead, but this is actually for second. And it's going on over 2 seconds behind the current race leader, D McIntosh. McIntosh, a former Daytona 500 winner, was in the playoffs last year due to his Daytona 500 win. But he is winless so far this season, and he's also 40th in the point standings. A track where he was a former winner at, Richmond, last week, was not a kind track to him. And he dropped 4 spots in the standings down to where he is now 40th in points. So this is definitely a well-needed run for him. We've talked about drivers that really needed good runs, and they're getting them right now. McIntosh, Dollerton, C Dodd, as well as K Llamas and K Shearer. Let's see, McIntosh was 40th in points. Mentioned C Dodd was 32nd, Dollerton 39th, K Shearer was 29th, and K Llamas is dead last in points. So all these drivers needed good runs. Right there, that's that steel guardrail I was talking about. So there's some skid marks there as well. I think those might actually belong to S Gallighan. Not 100% certain, but just based off what I've seen so far. Well, D McIntosh can take this corner as gently as he wants because there's really no one to challenge him. So his chances of falling up the turn of death pretty slim to none. And now let's see if everybody can stay single file and avoid going off the turn of death here at the completion of our third lap. There'll be 2 laps to go as the leader hits the line. And it looks like everybody is minding their P's and Q's, realizing what's at stake. I think they're all going to get through here. So I would be very surprised if we have another driver fall off the turn of death here, especially with the fact now that the field has gotten themselves so spread out. But we'll have to wait and see. There's a view right there of pit road, and that just shows you just the deep gorge that these drivers can fall into. And I think J McCloud and S Gallighan, after this race, could tell you firsthand what it feels like to fall off that cliff. I've run this track before in an online race, and I've gone off that cliff, and I can personally tell you, it's like it takes forever for you to get to the bottom. You're just waiting for the impact, and it doesn't happen, and it doesn't happen, and you're finally, you kind of relax a little thinking, you know, when is it going to happen? And at that moment, that's when the car hits the bottom. Well, D McIntosh, right now, barring any mistakes, is going to win this race. It just seems like that's going to be the case. I don't think fuel's going to be an issue. This track is about 12 miles in length. However, these drivers are set up with the fuel system that allows them to run longer distances with it being an endurance type race. So I don't think they're going to have to pit in the 5-lap span. The one thing I would question, though, is with D McIntosh by himself, the fact that these guys aren't being able to run him down, especially on these straightaways. Now, they've gotten a little bit more broken up from second on back here. You've got a side-by-side battle for second between Voyles and Mathews, and then you've got Osborne a little ways behind them, and then J Arndt a little ways behind them, so they're not all lined up like they were earlier. But when they were lined up, they really weren't making a whole lot of speed to be able to reel in the 14. Voyles gonna make his way by K Mathews. number of these drivers here just trying to get good runs to keep themselves high up in the point standings in their attempt to make it into the playoffs, like Kyle Mathews, J Arndt, J Baskinger, and Levi McIntyre, who last time by were all scored inside of the top 10. And J Baskinger, right now, looks to me like he is going to continue to increase his points lead. Joseph Srigley has not made his way up into the top 10 yet. We saw Kyle Keith got spun around on the, I think it was around this area, this highway section earlier on, and Scott Roush, the rookie points leader, saw he was way back, apparently got involved in something at some point of this race. So all the competitors coming into this race that had a chance of not really challenging, but at least cutting into Baskinger's points lead have encountered problems. Baskinger's up here in the top 10. So Baskinger right now just looks like he's going to continue to increase his points gap. Levi McIntyre up in the top 10. He is now scored, I believe, in the 6th position. Nice run for him. Right behind J Arndt. And also another driver that I believe has just cracked the top 10. That's Jessica Shelton in the 0-2. So a great run for her. Jake Baskinger actually, I think, just fell out of the top 10. Shane Lake's on pit road. Sean Gallighan as well. Gallighan, we know why, because he fell off the turn of death. Speaking of, we're about to come and receive the white flag, and we'll be taking a look here for, I think this will probably be the final time here today. Our hard cam off the final corner. See if anyone falls off the turn of death here. Ooh, hoo, hoo, hoo. Joshua Osborne was double wide there with Kyle Mathews. Fortunately, cuts it hard to the right to keep from going off the corner. And everybody here single file. Whoa, Srigley ran it wide. Trent Dunham, Johnny Gardner, Benny Watson, Dylan Poteet, Reynolds and Gonzales. And up back through here, I don't think they're racing double wide at all. So that's the last time we look at the turn of death. And there's a train going by. Bye-bye, train. Oh, whoa, we just ran over Scott Roush. There's Cittadino, and there's Tim Walsh back there in the 15. Let's see where Walsh crosses the line at. Remember, he's 26th in points, and he's trying to keep himself in the top 30 in the standings. And he's 31st on the scoring chart right now. So this is not the run that Tim Walsh was looking for, the Daytona winner. But Dallas McIntosh has been strong. He has over 5 seconds. And there you go. Case in point. NR just crashed on me in the middle of the replay. Like, how? I've never had that happen. But I don't even know what my train of thought was, because I twice tried to re-record, and apparently I couldn't go through that corner on the final lap in the spectator cam. Focused on Dallas McIntosh, or else it was going to crash. So, wow. But Dallas McIntosh, I mean, what a feat this would be for him. Not only is he a former Daytona 500 winner, but it would be his first win of this season. It would be Dodge's first win of the season, as only himself and Trent Dunham are currently the Dodge drivers. And on top of that, Dallas McIntosh would be the only driver in Hershey's Cup Series history to be able to have tamed Thornton twice. He's one of our 3 former winners coming into this race, along with Baskinger and Sanford. So, Dallas McIntosh trying to win at maybe one of the toughest road courses on the Hershey's Cup Series circuit twice in 3 years. And I mean, like I said, I don't see, barring him messing up maybe the final few corners or botching up the final corner with the turn of death, I don't see him messing up. And he has been flawless through those corners on the last 3 laps. So, right now, Dallas McIntosh just has to hit his marks, mind his P's and Q's, and just not make any mistakes whatsoever, and I think he's going to be home free. And with this kind of resurgence of Dodge right now, you got to think a lot of eyes will be looking in the direction of former champion Trent Dunham to see if he'll be able to get his Dodge in victory lane now. The best battle on track right now is going on for second. K Mathews, Daniel Voyles, Joshua Osborne all shaking it up. But it is not for the race win. Shelton has now moved up to 5th. McIntyre in 6th. This is a battle for 7th back through, I think, 11th place. 3 of the CJ Racing cars here, along with J Llamas and J Arndt, who's got damage now on his left side. J Baskinger just outside there in 12th. Dougie Shears 13th. 14th Seth Cole, and Daniel Guilbert right now in the 15th position. But as we move back up to the front, through the final few sections, Dallas McIntosh's car doesn't have a scratch on it. He has been flawless all day, and he is going to reap the well-deserved rewards as he'll make his way down here into the final right-hander. Just make sure he doesn't go off the turn of death, and he can prepare himself to go to victory lane. For the second time in 3 seasons, Dallas McIntosh is going to win here at the winding road course of Thornton Raceway, and subsequently might be able to get himself into the playoffs. McIntosh takes the checkers. Now the goal for McIntosh is probably going to have to be to get himself into the top 30 in the points, because as we mentioned, coming into this race, he is 40th in the standings. So he needs consistent runs for the last few races of the regular season, so that way this win will get him into the playoffs for the 2nd straight year. This also is Dallas McIntosh's 6th career win, which puts him into a tie for 5th most on the all-time wins list. Let's take a look here at your full finisher results from this race. McIntosh with the victory, Voyles in 2nd. Joshua Osborne, 3rd straight week, he gets Rookie of the Race. I mean, he came into this one still 3rd in the point standings for the rookie points, but only 6 points out. I think Osborne's making a charge at Scott Roush to battle for that rookie points lead and for Rookie of the Year honors. How about S3 Motorsports? A Retro Racing Enterprises there, 4th and 5th with K Mathews and Jessica Shelton. Levi McIntyre, a consistent run in 6th. A great run for Chris Dollerton there in 7th. K Llamas in 8th, and Chris Dodd in 9th. Those 3 really needed good runs, and they got them here today. And J Arndt started on the pole. 1 week after his 2nd win of the season, going to finish top 10. That team, they've been very consistent, and I think a lot of people are looking at them to be a team to contend with for the championship at the season finale. Look down through the remainder of the results there. K Shearer in 11th, good run for him. J Baskinger will probably keep the points lead as he'll finish the day out in 12th. Dougie Shears 13th, 14th for Seth Cole, 15th Daniel Guilbert. 16th place is going to be Cody Smart, Keith Batson in 17th, Cole Baker 18th, Dylan Young faded back to 19th, Joseph Srigley in 20th. A lot of these guys we didn't really talk about because they weren't really up there at the front. Anthony McCrury back in 21st, Trent Dunham 22nd, Watson 23rd, 24th place Dylan Poteet, Johnny Gardner 25th. And you look on down through the remainder of the finisher results here, and Scott Roush finishes the day out in 29th place. Tim Walsh going to finish the day out in 31st. That is not where he needed to finish. And then a lot of drivers that had issues here today. Kyle Keith and Holly Davis, Emmanuel Hartnett, James McCloud, J Bryant, Shane Lake, and Sean Gallighan. 2 of those, Gallighan and McCloud, we know fell off of the turn of death. But that's going to do it here tonight, or today, or whatever, from Thornton. Hope you guys enjoyed this race. If you did, be sure to give us a like, subscribe to become a part of the crew today. We have shown you your full finisher results. These are your rookie point stands, your overall point stands heading into next week as Dallas McIntosh becomes the 10th different winner this season in 11 races. Next week, we've got all 3 of our main series coming back as the Hershey's Cup Series and the Coors Light Truck Series. They'll be racing at a new track, Vancouver. And we will see the Pizza Deck Series drivers run their endurance race, very similar to this, at open roads. So that should be a very exciting week. The following week, we're going to have the Last of a slate series racing at the short track of Salem, and then it's throwback weekend for the Pizza Hut X Series and Hershey's Cup Series drivers at the Darlington Raceway. That's going to be an interesting one, seeing a lot of drivers in their throwback schemes. Always a fun weekend when we go to the Lady in Black. But we will see you guys next week as you've been watching Productive NSCRA Offline Racing at its best. So long from Thornton.